I'm a little behind on this, but The Sims announced that Sims 5 is going to have single player and multiplayer, and I'd like to talk about that today. Way back when The Sims 2 came out on console, I played couch co-op and with other players, and we really enjoyed that game, but games usually went one of two ways. You either had someone who was really excited to help you do it and play through the story mode and wanted to be a team player, or you had someone who just literally wanted to burn everything to the ground. So I'm curious how EA is going to do multiplayer, because multiplayer in their other games are usually head-to-head. You know, in Apex it's Battle Royale. We're not getting the Sims Royale, I hope, but how is that gonna work? Are we gonna have like Animal Crossing-esque type gameplay where we can like load up someone's house and look at it but not really interact, sort of like a plastic bubble is around everything? Or are we going to get total griefing and destroying of everything? I'm not really sure how they're gonna do this, because either way it kind of seems like no one is gonna really like it. If you're a sort of plastic bubble, then what's the point? You can go to someone's house and say hi, or maybe type a message to them, but you can't really interact with their house or their kids or their furniture. That's kind of boring. Or we flip the coin and it's total whatever you want to do griefing, and you never want to be online because people are destroying your house. This is why it's such a head scratcher for me, because either way, that's boring. That's not something I want in my Sims, and not something I think a lot of people want in The Sims. Now, I know Sims Online was a thing, but it was way before my time. I never got to play it or enjoy it, but I've heard from a lot of other people that it wasn't well received. It wasn't a good game. It didn't capture people's attention, and I think maybe it was because it was ahead of its time. Way back when, you know, the internet was expensive, then you had to pay for the game. I think it was too far ahead of its time and just kind of fizzled out. Now there's multiplayer shoehorned into everything, and a lot of things don't need multiplayer, and I think maybe we've swung from one problem to another. We swung from back in the Sims Online days of being too ahead of time. The internet couldn't keep up with it, you know, people didn't want to pay for it because stuff was so expensive. Then we've swung the other way where everything has multiplayer and people are just like, everything has multiplayer now, it's so boring. So they need to really find a niche to hit this out of the park. And unfortunately, I think their niche is going to be milking the living daylights out of everything they can with microtransactions and or monthly subscriptions. Because that is exactly what they're doing with other games. If you look at things like Anthem, microtransactions. Look at Apex Legends, microtransactions. Look at FIFA and Madden, microtransactions. Everything is microtransactions and just monetized out the wazoo. So I think if we look at all the other properties that EA owns and go, what direction could this game be going in? I think we can see where we're heading, and for me, I'm not really interested in being milked like crazy for money every single month for a subscription, or in the case of some of the mobile offerings, buying the items with real-world money and then having to pay for colors and having to pay for events, or having to grind the crap and play forever just to make headway in the game. I'm not a fan of either of those two things, honestly. Number one, I don't have money, a lot of money, to be paying subscriptions or to be paying, you know, silly mobile games money every single second so that I can have something new in my game. I don't have money to do that. So if we're going down that path, I'm gonna say that my fun with The Sims ends with Sims 4, because for me, it's not worth it. It's not worth to have to pay subscription fees to play a game when I have so many other games to play. It's not worth having to grind for hours and hours and hours, again, because I have so many other games I can be playing and enjoying. How do you guys feel about this? Would you pay a monthly fee to play The Sims? Would you pay for microtransactions to buy items and then buy colors or buy hairstyles or clothes? Would you do that? Do you play the mobile offerings? Because I don't have any experience with that, because honestly, my time is precious. Like I said, I have lots of games to play, lots of videos to create. I can't be spending hours a day grinding for something. And on the flip side, I don't have the money to be paying for subscriptions or buying things, silly pixel things in a game designed to milk players for as much money as possible. I just don't have the time or the money or the will to do that. So how do you guys feel about this? The microtransactions, the subscriptions, or multiplayer in general? Because I'm not really sure what route they're going to take. It could be one, it could be all of them. We won't know until the game comes out. But I really think EA needs to think long and hard about this. We are not out of the consciousness of what happened with SimCity and the always online craziness that that game ran into. That the servers weren't ready, that no one could play, and by the time they got all of the stuff fixed, gave an offline mode, people were like, it's too late. I'm over it. I'm gonna go play something else. And then City Skylines came out and just basically said, get out of here. You don't know what you're doing anymore. Get lost. And we haven't seen a mainline SimCity. Okay, I know there's a mobile game, but I'm not counting that. We haven't seen one since then because EA does not believe that there is market good enough to make a game like that. Or maybe they're just full of shame for what they did with the last SimCity, who knows. But it has to do something with City Skylines and the success they're having, because they just can't compete at all. You can't just push out a SimCity game half-baked and expect people to buy it anymore, because you now have competition. And that's why so many people want competition for The Sims, because when you're the only horse in the rodeo, you can be as bad as possible and no one can say anything because you're the only horse. But when other people start entering the arena, you can no longer be shady and crappy. You have to get your act together and you have to compete. Let us also not forget that The Sims 4 was meant to be multiplayer, and how did that work out? How well did that work out? We basically got a entirely gimped game because of failed attempts at making a game multiplayer. So that didn't go over real well. The problem is EA never learns. They just look at how much money is made by multiplayer games and goes, I want some of that. So you know what? I'm just gonna shoehorn multiplayer into everything because it makes us so much money. And that's the problem. You don't get good games, you don't get innovation when all a company sees is dollar signs. Let's hypothesize for a second. Say Sims 5 comes out with a monthly subscription. Everything is free in the game, like all the updates and stuff are free, but you have to pay a subscription to play the game. Would that be worth it to people? Say the monthly subscription fee is $5 or $10 a month. How much content would you need to get so that is actually worthwhile to you? You can't just update the game every 6 months and expect people to be happy. It's just not gonna happen. You're gonna have to have regular content coming out all the time for a subscription fee. And I don't know if The Sims necessarily will do that. They really like to trickle stuff here on The Sims 4 front. They like to be like, here's a little pebble of something coming. Buy it or don't buy it, we don't care. And then a couple months later, it's like, here's another little pebble. And here's another little pebble. I don't play the mobile games, so is it different in mobile? How often do you get updates in mobile? Because if they're going to be doing the microtransactions or the monthly subscriptions, that's probably the model that they're going to follow, the mobile stuff. So I'm interested to know how often mobile gets updates, because if it's months and months and months between updates, you're gonna have a lot of people who are just gonna fade away and just be like, I don't care anymore. And that's not good for the longevity of the game. Or you could get people who are smart like me and subscribe for like 1 month and then wait until the content comes out and like resubscribe, you know, cancel, like people do with Netflix. Like they'll watch one series and then they'll cancel and they'll wait until another series comes out that they want to watch. I don't know if EA would have something in the background to combat that. Something says they probably would, because they would see that as missing money. They'd probably have some kind of timer in the background that would say, if you don't play for a month, we delete your account. Something to make it scarce and make people afraid that they're going to lose their investment in the game if they don't play, that sort of thing. But for me, if it was a subscription and there was nothing saying that I had to keep playing, I would come back and play the new stuff and then just cancel my subscription and come back later. They would have to put out content at a constant pace so people would stay engaged. And I don't know if they necessarily could be able to do that, because right now they can't even put out a couple packs a year. So I don't know if big giant updates would be something that they could do on a constant basis to keep people happy. I don't know that they're gonna go this route. They might just go the microtransaction route, where you have to purchase everything either by grinding in-game money or by paying with real-world money. I don't know. They would have to seriously get their butts in gear and produce stuff weekly or bi-weekly, because you're asking people to be engaged with the game long term, and if you can't update it and upgrade it fast enough, people are going to drop off and they're not going to come back. They really like leaving us high and dry for months at a time in The Sims 4, so I don't know. They would have to really seriously bring on new people, have different departments doing different things, one for bug fixes, because people are not going to pay for a buggy game every single month. I'm sorry, people just aren't going to do it. And you need another department for new stuff and people who are working way in the future. I don't think EA is actually going to shell out the money for teams like that. Doesn't seem like they are really willing to shell out money for anything, so I'm leaning more towards the microtransactions sort of Sims mobile way of doing things, because they can just plop things in the game all willy-nilly whenever they want to for a premium price, and they really don't have to worry too much about giving people enough so that they will stay for a subscription-based offering. So we will have to see. How do you guys feel about this? I'm very interested in hearing your feelings of how you think things are going to go. We're going to have to see here in the next few years how EA does this, because EA does not have a good track record. They do not. Their games this past year, Anthem's dead, FIFA and Madden, people are pissed off because all of the games are just copy pasted every single year, and it's getting really, really obvious. I guess their Star Wars game came out and was well, but that's a single player game, so we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see how things go, because it's gonna be either great or awful, and with EA, you never know.